This isn't, I think 2 days later, they took this picture, they were laying out the infrastructure for underlying connections as well as, for their monument signs, and then getting ready for that pour, but I think only a few days later, they ended up pouring that drive-through. The other, ongoing is, every one of these projects has what you all have heard, probably a pump station, and you've seen it. Nogales has it at the end of their cul-de-sac along Charlie Road and Railroad. And this basically is this is sitting on what used to be the Fullerton stone building, and it's going to be it's a permanent structure that basically pumps out water from underneath, that's directed into the area away from the underpass. So this is the permanent structure dedicated, that will be future maintenance responsibility of the city, which is always typical. But this is another area that one was impacted by the weather, but it also is also within these 4 phases that we're working to complete within this next year. It's another picture of a crane and the work that they're doing within that pump station. And now to the Fairway Drive Grade Separation Project. The last time we were here, again, we talked about the schedule for the project as well as its update on where it stands right now in terms of construction. Fairway Drive and East Walnut Drive is a 4-lane roadway underpass with a 4-track railroad bridge. Its construction cost is $240.8 million with a completion planned for summer of this year. The other part of this project, which rarely gets mentioned, but it is part of this project, were the improvements that were done at Lemon Avenue and the State Route 60, the eastbound and on and off ramps that were added there, eastbound and westbound on ramps. The, again, original projection was winter 24, 25, but part of that has been the efforts to be able to get some of the work done for this project as planned and committed to. One of the things we've been doing is this contractor is able to crunch some of their time by making sure they're having sort of weekend work, but that is coordinated. That has a lot to do with utilities availability. During the winter, when everything was happening in the storm and everyone's lights were out, our projects like this, we couldn't turn to SE to come out and do their work. So we've pushed out a lot of this work to make sure coordination is key. And now that phase that we've gone through that horrible storm, now some of the conversations are back on the table to make sure that we get this project on track for the summer completion of 2023. This, if you remember back in December, this is what that looked like. When I came to present to you guys, this is what we had at that time. So between then and now, like 3.5 months later, this is again back in December. Now we're looking at walls with actual definition. These walls, just for your information, which is key to our projects, is coated in a way that's sort of rippled to protect, somewhat protect against graffiti. We still get it, but at least it's a lot easier to clean up, and also it's a lot easier to maintain for the city purposes. The last thing we want is to create a project that's going to give the city much more responsibility. And so with all our projects, we make sure that this particular coating is in place to protect, at least to aid somewhat in the graffiti efforts. Some of the sidewalks have gone in, including what you see there is the retaining walls are completed along the underpass. Some of the business restoration of walls. So some places like THTC, the Fairway Storage, some of those businesses that are closer to the project were impacted either physically through their boundaries or within their parking lots, and that all is going back into restoration as we speak. So that's what you'll see out there. Right now, it's like THTC and Fairway Storage that you'll see the majority of the restoration back. Additionally, along the railroad tracks, we have these retaining walls, but above that, you'll see like a 4-foot retaining wall with another 4 to 8 feet of chain link fence. So it's definitely creating, we're looking at about 3 miles of these kinds of walls and restoration. So the project from Fairway, Nogales to Fullerton, we're looking at about 3 miles of these restoration of walls that were one not there before because there used to be chain link or nothing at all, and now you see these walls that are between the railroad tracks and the properties or the roads that are adjacent to the tracks. And just another weather impact. So back in January, we were ready for a pour, and that Mother Nature had a different plan. So again, we had 2 pools, one at Fullerton, and this one was more of a pond. But this was treated with lime to try to speed up the drying process, because pouring anything on, as if you guys are engineers or done construction, pouring anything on unstable ground is just going to, you're just throwing out money and you're just throwing out time, because you're not going to have a stable enough environment to be able to sustain the necessary curing process and weight of the cement. So we literally have had to wait. So every time we planned it, it's another rain. And so now we're back on track. And that's where, and the next time I come out here, you'll see the underpass fully paved with what will be at that point a what we call a punch list. So when you do construction, you have a punch list, and that's basically what you need to make sure is taken care of before the city can accept the improvements as completed. So that's where we'll be in the next 2 months or so. As always, I like to remind you that we continue to work with our local businesses just to do a direct mail marketing as well as advertising. For Fullerton, one of the ones that has worked very well is the online marketing Chinese in LA. That allows us a little bit more flexibility to edit our ads and also on a monthly or quarterly fashion, whereas when we do direct mailing, it's a different turnaround time, but we still have gotten very creative with working with local businesses where there is an opportunity. Now, the fact that COVID is giving us more of a broad approach, it's to trying to help them during COVID, and now that COVID is no longer, we don't have the same restrictions, we're actually finding even better ways to continue to promote them by guiding customers back to them, highlighting in the work that the progress of the projects, and then giving them sort of helpful hints on which are the latest new businesses in the area, or maybe there's coupons. So we work creatively. It's one is the direct mail, the other one is the ongoing sort of monthly advertising that we get to edit. So that's also part of it. And certainly, as always, I like to make sure that you all have my information. Don't feel that you need to wait for the meeting. If you feel there's a concern out there what's happening, hey Maria, I ran into this situation at the corner of so-and-so, I'll get on the phone and find out what's going on with the teams. Sometimes it's not even us, and it's okay to confirm that. One situation, we had a utility company that hit some kind of water line. They were actually doing just regular maintenance, and they hit a line and ended up impacting a couple of cars at FedEx. But again, it's not us, but then we become sort of the conduit to get people connected to the right resources. So this is my email as well as my direct line. If you're familiar with Teams, this is basically the direct line that goes to that number, and we're here to again address any of your concerns as we move forward. So we're looking at completion for Fullerton or Fairway for this summer, and stay tuned because that will mean full opening of that underpass. Thank you. Any questions?